Okay. Right, so, well, I'll just start with my background very quickly. So I grew up in Singapore, so that's why I'm bilingual, among other things. And then I went to Australia as a teenager, and that's where I finished my medical training. And after I finished my medical training, I did a degree in TV and radio journalism. And then I ended up doing 2 years of training in Feng Shui in Taiwan when I was learning classical Mandarin. So that's my background. And I've been living in Dubai since 2004. And, well, I suppose I've written a few books about the subject, which I'll plug at the end of the talk. So there you go. Okay, so today we're talking about enhancing the peach blossom in your life, which is meaning enhancing the romance in your life. So, what do we have here? We have a peach blossom. So the peach blossom is basically the flower of the peach tree, which is fruit, as you know. Now, you must not confuse the peach fruit with the peach flower or blossom, because the peach fruit is a symbol of longevity and health, and it's carried by the old man longevity as part of the three sort of immortals. And the peach blossom actually means romance. So the flower is culturally meaning romance, and a peach blossom life indicates somebody whose life is filled with romance, unwanted or wanted otherwise. And there's also a term in face reading known as peach blossom eyes, which suggests somebody who is very alluring eyes that captivate and attract people. So it's seen in some Hollywood stars, classically Angelina Jolie, and apparently Kristen Stewart from the Twilight series also has supposed peach blossom eyes.
Dog food.
Sorry?
I don't.
You don't? Well, maybe Channing Tatum for equal opportunity. So there you go, that's peach blossom, the term. So the talk will be divided into two main sections, because Feng Shui we have the macroscopic or the general picture and the microscopic. So macroscopic picture means that we can see visible influences, so things like form, which you can see with your eyes. So we'll look at certain parts of that. So we start looking at common misconceptions. So I'll try and correct some misconceptions that you might have. Then we look at some Feng Shui do's and don'ts, some specific examples. Then we'll finish up by looking at some symbols of romance to help you improve the romance in your life. And then for the microscopic picture, we'll be looking using formula or invisible influences. Now keep in mind that we have some Feng Shui practitioners here in the audience, and there are very many formulas. So I'll just focus on two sort of more general formulas. One is about the annual stars, and the other one's about using astrological year of birth. And then we'll finish off looking at a specific indicator of your romance from your own astrology chart. So that's how the talk will be divided. So keep in mind some sort of concept of romance. Enhancing or stimulating the peach blossom in your life is for people who are looking for a life partner or for commitment. It is not for those who are happily married or in committed relationships. Not a good idea. Because using Feng Shui formulas to seek extramarital partners is not really good from a karmic point of view. So the consultant has to realize that when you speak to that person. And then note that the following points reflect the traditional or cultural aspect point of view. So this is what my Taiwanese Feng Shui master would tell me. So please keep in mind that it's a very traditional, very Chinese point of view, but I'm presenting it in English for you. And also another word, I mean, if the marriage is in trouble or you want to enhance your relationship, you can also use these formulas to help you. But of course, we have to look at the situation. So the first common misconception is the romance sector is always located in the southwest sector of your home. And the other misconception is if you open the front door, the romance sector is always to the left when you look in. So according to the traditional methods used in Taiwan and Hong Kong, this is not true. Because the peach blossom or romance sector is calculated according to two factors. The first one is actually the orientation of your home, and the second one is the astrological data of the individual in question. So we have to look at it specifically for that person and for that house. So common misconception number two, this has done a lot of damage from my experience in Dubai because I had a lot of clients coming to talk to me about this misconception. So you stand with your back to the front door and you look out, and they've read that if there's water flowing or present to your right, then the man of the house will stray. So please, I reassure you, this is not true. There are other clues that will indicate a cheating spouse. So first you can look at the indications from the astrology chart. There are some very big hints there. And obviously, from a Feng Shui point of view, when the romance sector is inadvertently stimulated, so you put a water fountain somewhere we're not supposed to put it, then you might get some problems for the relationship. Or positive things. Now, these are some very cute Mandarin ducks, as you can see, a symbol of romance, so, very happy to promote them, very positive. But there's a misconception saying that if you place a pair of Mandarin ducks in the romance sector, you will stimulate romance. And these Mandarin ducks can be in the form of crystal figures, wooden carvings. I don't think it's realistic to actually rear some Mandarin ducks in your house, that's not going to work. So this is actually not true, because Feng Shui masters will use something which is alive, something which is living, to stimulate romance in certain parts of Asia. So they will use either moving water or plants, live plants, not artificial plants, not dead plants, not dried plants, just real plants, and not cut flowers also, because they have a very sort of short shelf life. So we'll look at more rules about that when we're looking at romance symbols in a few minutes. So next. Now, there's another misconception saying that you have to introduce the color red into your home in terms of soft furnishings, decorations, or color scheme to enhance your romance. Now, I want to point out that in traditional in China and in Asia, red is actually viewed more as a symbol of prosperity and not romance. So I understand in the West some people look at red as a color of passion, which is fine, but if you're going to paint your walls red and your ceiling red and you're going to have red furniture in your house, it's going to end up looking like a Chinese restaurant, isn't it? So that's not going to work. So you have to keep perspective. You can have red sheets if you want or red pillow, but you can't look like a Chinese restaurant. So what else? What is more important from the astrology point of view is that you need to identify your favorable colors from your birth chart, and then you have to introduce them into your living space. So red obviously represents fire, and fire might not necessarily be the best element for everybody in this room. So you have to tailor it to the individual. Okay, so now we look at the first Feng Shui do's and don'ts. So this one, as you can see, it's a bed with a big beam splitting it literally in half. So yes, this is probably more common in Western societies than in sort of Asia, because we don't have exposed beams in our buildings there. So you need to know what's lying above your bed. So if there's any protrusion, like in this picture, or there are any beams or structures that actually slice the bed in half, it will indicate a split between two partners. So how do you solve this? Whenever you have a problem, you need to have a solution. So the solution is you have to move the bed if it's possible, and then you can cover up the structural protrusion with a false ceiling or with some fabric. That's one way of solving the issue. So two options there. So that's the first practical hint you should remember. Now the practical Feng Shui for the house looks at three sort of main sectors: the front door, the bedroom, and the kitchen. So now we start with the bedroom, of course, since we're talking about romance. Now the second Feng Shui do or don't is the mirror in the bedroom. So ideally, I won't go so far as to say mirrors should not be in the bedroom, but please be aware that the mirror should not reflect the occupants when they're lying in bed. That's the main thing. So with this picture, as you can see, you can sort of see yourself sideways when you're looking to the right when lying in bed. So that's not really ideal. Now, you will also see like mirrored wardrobes who were very popular in Australia at one stage in the 90s. And in Dubai, in one of the most famous hotels in Dubai that's shaped like a ship, they actually have a mirror on every ceiling in the bedroom. So, well, it's good for your stay at the hotel, but I think for the long term it's not really going to give you restful sleep, is it? So you have to pay attention to the position of the dressing table and the mirror, because then you make sure that it does not reflect the bed. So that is always a problem for married couples, and the ladies want to have a dresser to sort of do their makeup, etc., etc. You have to make sure that the mirror does not reflect the bed. So I suppose the best way is to put the mirror on the same wall as the bed, if you can picture it. Otherwise, there'll be marital discord, arguments. You might have difficulties falling asleep. You might have very unrestful sleep, very disturbed sleep. So how do you solve it? You cover up the mirrors if you can. Well, the mirrors can't be moved, you cover them up, or you can move them if it's possible. So mirrors in the bedroom, yes, but you have to place them in a very sort of neutral and sort of safe place. Right, the third one, we go to the kitchen. As you can see from this slide, the stove and the sink are directly opposite. So when the stove and the sink are directly opposite here, you can see they're both in the line of fire in this diagram or in this picture. So if they're not directly opposite, if they don't meet, if they are sort of at an angle or at a slant, then it's not an issue. So what happens when you have the stove and the sink pointing directly to each other like that? So fire and water are in conflict because water is the sink and fire is the stove. But there is a solution. You have to introduce the wood element in between the stove and the sink, and you can use either a green colored mat or a wooden mat in between. But there seems to be wooden floors in this example, so they kind of solve the problem. So looking at the cycle of the 5 elements, how does this solve the problem? Water produces wood, which then produces fire. So wood is like the mediator in between both of them. So that's how you solve this issue. Because I think realistically speaking, it is very difficult for you to move the sink or the stove after you move it. So too much trouble. So next, finally, we look at front doors. Because that's the third aspect of practical feng shui. So there are 2 front doors in this example, which is not a good thing. Because there should only be one main entrance to any one property. So if there are 2 gates or doors that are in the same orientation that have been used, the qi or the energy which is entering the house will be confused. So this will result in disagreement between the partners. So how do you solve it? If you have a larger door, you designate it as your main entrance, and you stop using the other. I wouldn't go so far as sealing the other, but you must have a front door, just one, and preferably a back door if you can, but of course in apartments that might be a bit difficult. And also the other issue is, this will also apply to properties with 2 front gates. So for people who are living on a country estate, keep that in mind. Okay, so this is, now we look at symbols of romance. So what's hanging on the walls of your house that's very important? I mean, do these images feature single people, or are they couples who are together? Are they happy? And then, of course, depending on your own preferences, do they only feature the gender that you consider platonic? So if you're looking to get married, if you only have pictures of your girlfriends and your mom and your grandmother and your sister in your house, it's not going to be very good for your romance, is it? And then for a guy, if you want to get married, you want to settle down, but you only have pictures of sportsmen or Hollywood actors or your dad in the house, that's not going to work. And then if you're married, I mean, are there any images or any pictures or paintings of single people in your bedroom? I mean, a lot of people like to buy pictures of like a single woman crying by herself or looking sad or in a very alluring pose, and then they hang out in the bedroom, and then they wonder why things are going wrong in the relationship. So you have to ask yourself, what is the overall feel of your images? Are they warm, happy, intimate, or are they melancholic and sad? So something like this, wrong way. Something like this should not be hanging on the walls of your bedroom, because that's probably a post-divorce sort of state of mind, so yeah, not very good. So the second rule is you need to look at the symmetry of your furniture. So as you can see in this picture coming up, you have 2 nightstands. So if you only have a 1 nightstand in your room, and then it's not going to enhance your romantic prospects. Because I've seen cases in Dubai where the room is too small, so they have a big bed, and they only have 1 bedstand. So, and the lady was complaining to me that she couldn't meet anybody. No surprise. But there were other factors as well. And also, I've seen examples of people that put up, lion statues and blue dog statues. They put it outside your front door, and then one of them gets damaged. So they just end up putting just one outside their door, or the damaged one. So that is also an issue. I mean, I've seen a few cases of that as well. So the hint is, or the advice is, you must always ensure that your furniture, for example, your chairs, dining tables if you can. That would make it possible, because you did get some symmetry in your home. And then displaying photographs of your former partners or your spouses prominently in your home, that's not very good, is it? I mean, you'd be surprised at the number of people who do that. And I mean, it is also preferable that photographs of yourself and your partner alone, there's you there and there's your partner there alone, separately, should also not be prominently displayed in your home. Because, I mean, it's not going to, it's obviously giving signs that things are not going that well. And also, if you're in the middle of a separation and you really want to move on, I would not advise you to just put pictures of yourself and your partner throughout your home. Because obviously our living space is a reflection of our mind, our innermost thoughts and fears, etc. So it's pretty clear that a person who still wants to display pictures of their ex or in the middle of a separation, yeah, they need to sort of work through some of their angst, etc. And then finally, objects associated with violence and war should also not be displayed in your bedroom or your living room, even if they reflect the occupant's interests. So this includes guns, you'll be surprised, real or replicas. You know, some people love the West, they love the John Wayne, blah, blah, blah. So they have some guns around their house. Knives, living in Dubai, you have a lot of people, you know, giving out ceremonial knives. You know, they call them jambiyas, kanjas, you know, those sort of curved bladed stuff. Yeah, privately used knives. I mean, in Yemen, it's a sign of virility. So, you know, you've got to tread carefully there. But at the end of the day, I would not display it prominently in your bedroom or in the living room. You can make an exception for the study or the den if need be, but you know, you've got to look at it case-by-case basis. Of course, cannons, miniature, otherwise is not a good idea. Also, images associated with war or conflict, because this will obviously create discord between family members. So you don't want something like that lying in the living room for sure. Pictorial or real. So yeah. So what should be displayed to enhance romance in your home? Well, images of couples, yourself, or couple, well, not people that you know, but you know, models in a picture, etc., who are happy and contented. As I said, photos of yourself and your current spouse. For people who are partnered, you know, you can put images of family members together, not separately and not apart. I mean, you can have a few pictures of everybody together, you can have some of people separately, but if you have more of your family members separately than together, then that is a problem. So this is the feel we want to go for. Okay? Warm, intimate, happy, romantic, etc. So there you go. So we've discussed all the things that you can see with your eyes. So now let's look at things that, we look at just two formulas that the Feng Shui masters use. The first one is known as the annual star formula. So there are two, for those people who are familiar with this formula, there are two stars which are associated with romance. The first one is star 1, which is associated with the water element. So you can enhance this by placing water features. So it's a real water. I don't think an aquarium is going to sort of cut as a water feature, because you know the water actually has to be open to the environment. So yeah, you know, and you've seen sort of those sort of rubber fish in the water feature. I mean, that's not going to work. You've seen that, right? Swirling around. That's not going to work either. And then star 4 is associated with the wood element. So you can enhance it by playing water features once again, or the wood element. As I said, living plants. So not dead plants, not dry plants, and not artificial plants. And definitely, as I said, if you want to use cut flowers, they have a very short lifespan. We'll be looking at a few days. So just a bit of formula here. This is how the 9 stars are distributed for those people who are familiar. And the distribution of the stars in 2015, and the 4 in the middle is as follows. So for those people who know, but how do I make this practical for you guys? So the romance sectors for 2015 are in the southwest, star 1, and in the center, star 4. So you can place a water feature in these sectors to enhance your romantic prospects. You can use plants for star 4, which is in the center, because then you can use the wood element. Water features should never be haphazard or randomly placed, because it may stimulate romance inadvertently. And I've seen this in Dubai. And without going into too much detail, the wife just left the water fountain on, and she stimulated a romance star, and let's say the husband had a wild week. So that's very, very damaging. So you actually have to review. You have to review the the position of your water feature every year if you can. I'm not just saying this to give more business to the Feng Shui consultant. I'm saying this because the pattern of the stars do change every year. So there you go. All right, the next formula is determined by the year of birth. So it's depending on the animal zodiac of the year that you're born in. So let's take a head count. So who's born in the year of the monkey, rat, or dragon in this room? Not too many, so that's the water group. How about the snake, rooster, and ox? Oh, a bit more. That's the metal group. The tiger, horse, and dog? Okay, almost the same. That's the fire group. And the pig, rabbit, and sheep? Okay, the same as the water group. So depending on your year of birth, this is how you're classified as per the 4 groups. Sorry, there are no earth animals in this classification. So we identify the romance sector and we enhance the area. So this is looking at the year of birth. So for the water group, monkey, rat, and dragon, the first group, it's the romance sectors in the west. So the next group was the snake, rooster, and the ox, so that will be in the south. And then for the tiger, horse, and dog, which is also quite a big group, that's in the east. And for the pig, rabbit, and sheep, that would be in the north. So this is a formula based on your astrological year of birth. Right. So now let's look at the astrological indicators on a personal basis. So the peach blossom animal for each individual is actually located, well, in the Chinese they call it the Fu Qi Gong, which is a house of spouse, which is present in your 4 pillars or your 8 characters chart. So Laurent Hui discussed it earlier today. So the 4 pillars chart is looking at the hour, day, month, and year of birth of a person, and the day, branch, or animal is a personal romance indicator. So if you're born on the yin, water, rooster day, then for yourself, your romance animal is the rooster. So how do you use this information on a practical level? If the rooster is in your house of spouse, your chances of meeting a suitable partner in the rooster year will be high. So also in the 3 harmony years, the snake year and the ox year, the 6 harmony year, which is the dragon year, and also the clash year, which is the rabbit year. So, but of course, the clash year, the romance may be a bit turbulent or short-term, so that's not really what you're aiming for. And then we can also look at the luck cycles where your romance come up, and also look at the months, the days also. So those are your romance years. And there's also another way of using romance by looking at the stem of the chart. That's getting a bit complicated. So we'll just try and stick with the animals because that's probably easier. For people who are happily married or people who are in relationships, if your romance animal shows up in the year, your chances of meeting a third person or third party is actually quite high. So you have to watch out for that possibility, to be careful about that. But for people who are single and who are looking to settle down or to commit, then it's perfect. When your romance animal shows up, congratulations, good luck there. So summarizing, we have looking at romance, you have to consider your bedroom first, see how the bed is placed. That's number 1, see what lies above the bed. And then also look at the symmetry of your bedroom. Is it balanced? Is it symmetrical? The furniture, etc. Then we look at the kitchen. Make sure that the stove and the sink are not directly facing each other. And then we look at the front door. Are you using just one front door, etc. Look at the images which are sort of hanging around the walls of your home. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it reflects your state of mind and reflects what you're aiming for. For those who want to use the formulas, there are many other formulas as well. I mean, there's the 8 mansions formula, there's the standard flying stars formula, looking at the age of the property and the orientation. So those are more complex formulas. But then the ones I recommended was the annual star formula and also which was only applicable in 2015. And also the other formula I was discussing was the one to do on your year of birth. So that's another formula to use. You can also identify the timing. So if it's your romance year, month, or day, then you can capitalize on your opportunities. Go on a blind date, who knows? Go and join a party, you never know who you might meet. It's all that happens. But at the end of the day, in spite of all these questions and the Feng Shui aspect and the astrology aspect, you have to ask yourself the million-dollar question. Because, are you ready for love? Because if you're not ready for love, and you don't want to commit, you're not looking to settle down, it's not going to happen. So it's actually your mind frame and yourself. You know, I mean, in living in Dubai, I've seen a lot of single people because a lot of people from Emirates, they obviously single and they are living in Dubai. And some of the people that I've encountered, they're sort of living for the thrill of the romance or the sort of the excitement of the honeymoon period, or sort of like the heart's beating fast sort of time of the romance, and don't want to settle down and actually iron out the issues and have a long-term thing. So then they'll start complaining to me that the Feng Shui is not working or the astrology was wrong. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself that question. Are you ready for love? If you're not, nothing's going to help you. If you are, well, we'll try our best. So now I'll go to the business part of the lecture, so I'm going to plug my books now. So this one is the first book I wrote, which was a collection of columns that I wrote for the South China Morning Post, which is the main English newspaper in Hong Kong. And, oh, here it is. So it's a collection of columns, 250 words max, back page of the newspaper on a Sunday, so it's very easy to digest. The editor ensured that every column has to leave the reader with some practical advice. So it's a very practical book. You can see I look a little bit younger in the picture. So the next book I'm plugging is one to do with 4 pillars. So I've done a series. So this one is called Discover Your Code to Success. So it tells you how to decipher your chart. So for those people who know the characters, the person on the cover is born in the Dragon Day. So the dragon is his personal romance animal. So that's part 1. And part 2 is looking at finding your life partner, a very fancy title, but looking at the charts of celebrities who had multiple marriages. So Liz Taylor is discussed. That's enough material there. And Cary Grant too. So yeah. My teacher seemed to like those old Hollywood stars. I don't think anybody can rival Liz Taylor in this day and age. So there you go. And the latest one is linking the 4 pillars with the I Ching hexagram. So there's actually a formula that discusses how you can find out your own personal hexagram from the I Ching. There are 2 for each person, for everyone. So the one for the first part of your life and one for the second part of your life. So the series of 3 books were written originally in Chinese by my teacher, Lily Chung, and so I've translated them into English for the English-speaking world. Okay, thank you.